Welcome to Palestine Museum US. I'm Faisal Salah, the executive director and the founder of the museum. This is the second artist talk in our series, Women Telling the Palestinian Story. This episode features 3 artists currently exhibited at the museum. I'd like to welcome our guest artists, Samar Husseini, Ayya Abu Ghazala, and Dima Abu Ghazala, no relation among the two. This event is sponsored by Artscope magazine. At this point, I would like also to welcome our audience and followers on Facebook in the United States, in Palestine, and worldwide. This session is being recorded and will be available on the Palestine Museum US Facebook page for later viewing. We welcome our audience participation through commenting and posting of questions, and we'll do our best to try to answer those questions times permitting. At this point, I would like to introduce the museum's head curator, Nancy Nesbitt. Nancy.
Thank you, and thank you for joining us. As we're all relegated to our homes, we think of Palestinians' longtime limits on freedom of movement, and we hope that today's discussion extends there and your world. In this series, we'll first hear from Samar Husseini.
Samar?
Hi, happy to be here, and it's really a pleasure to talk to you and share my story with you. My name is Samar Husseini, and I am first-generation Palestinian American. I live and work in West Orange, New Jersey, which is 20 minutes outside of New York City. I was born in the United States, and both of my parents were born in Palestine. My father, Dr. Hatem Husseini, was a refugee who was forced to flee with his family in 1948. He was only 8 years old when he left. And my mother, Lamma Husseini, she grew up in Ramallah in the West Bank, and they came here to the United States after they were married in the late 1960s. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about first my background and my education, and then I'll start talking about my family, and then a little bit about my artwork as well. I have a bachelor's of arts from the University of Maryland with a double major in studio art and art history. And after getting my degree,
This is Faisal.
I had the opportunity to go to Amman, Jordan, because they had offered me to take part in an art residency and a solo exhibit at Darat al-Funun, and that was in 1993. So then when I returned to the States, I actually worked in a local art gallery in Washington, D.C. for several years. And then I decided to move to New York City because I was accepted at Pratt Institute, and there I received a master's in communication design. After I finished at Pratt, I worked for several years designing websites and creating online web marketing campaigns for several ad agencies. And then after my kids were born, I decided to go back to my first love, which really was painting. So growing up Arab American in the United States during the 70s, I was surrounded by Palestinian culture and food in my home. Yet as a child, the media still played a very strong part in my understanding of my identity. And as a 6-year-old, I remember telling my parents, I don't like Palestinians because they were all terrorists. And when my mom asked me who told me that, I told her television. And she had to explain to me and reinforce that Palestinians were good people and that we wanted peace. So shortly after that, my father, who was an outspoken political activist and a leader, he published an op-ed in the New York Times titled "Yearning for Palestine." And it reflected his concern of seeing himself distorted in the media, of being dehumanized and stripped of his human dignity. So he really wanted to humanize Palestinians, showing himself and his people in a positive light. And now, over 40 years later, I feel like his journey has really passed to me through my art. So as an artist, I create mixed media paintings and sculptures. In my abstract pieces, I create movement and emotions that are joined to express an intertwined relationship between layers. I explore tension and conflict through overlapping layers of color, mark making, stitching, and written word, and it's really to create a visual harmony. Some of the details I use are embroidered cross stitch, Arabic graphic symbols like the kafiyeh, and writing as well from my father, and it all speaks to creating empathy and humanizing a culture facing adversity while recalling an identity and a way of life that's being systematically eradicated. Yet I feel like when you view my work as a whole, when you step back, I really want the abstract portrayal of my own personal narrative to embody a continuing aspiration and embrace of hope for a better future. So I use the Palestinian dress, the tob, in my work because it's a very traditional dress which traces back its history to the early 19th century. It's notable for its cross stitch in its embroidered design, and it usually appears in the chest, the sleeves, and also the hem at the bottom of the skirt. And it really represents regional identity, diversity of culture, and also the practice associated with a community of self-expression. So I created these sculptural series of dresses showing the remnants of a culture being slowly usurped and written out of history. And it also speaks to my own personal identity as a Palestinian living in the diaspora, and really my interpretation of that experience. Currently, I'm working on really large abstracts that you can see in the background here that will then translate into a series of wearable dresses, which I'm wearing one of them right now. It's my way of really passing on my narrative and identity, which really was done through the traditional Palestinian tob. So in summary, my paintings are all about those challenges and enriching distinction of being Palestinian American. And, you know, at the same time, I really want to strive to challenge the viewer with thought-provoking ideas and dialogue. I paint to share my story, and I'm very proud to be Palestinian, and I'm really blessed to be able to share that in my art. So the first piece I wanted to sort of talk about was Cherished Burden, which is up right now on the screen. It's an abstract depiction. It's one of my first that I did. And it's a personal narrative because I combine not only the embroidery from the Palestinian dress that my mother actually had when she first got married. She received a dress, and also it incorporates my father's writing. He wrote many articles, op-eds in the New York Times, the Washington Post, and it incorporates the kafiyeh. I used a lot of mixed media elements in it, like charcoal, graphite, ink, collage, stitching, and it's all acrylic on canvas. The next piece is Welcome All Exiles. And really this piece to me, it's all about reimagining the challenges of a people in exile. So I wanted to create tension and harmony, and I stitch into it to create sort of that mending, and I added embroidery into it as well, so that it lured the viewer in to get them a little bit closer and want to understand the story behind it. Breathing moment is the next one, which again, it's visualizing those challenges of being Palestinian and the distinction of a fragmented culture. So you'll see there's a lot of movement in this piece as well. I use charcoal, I use India ink, I use acrylic, and it's all about the layers, incorporating those layers and stitching again to really lure you in to find out what's happening in the piece. The next painting, the next picture is one of my sculptural dresses that I created. It was part of a series that I did. This one is titled Resilient Legacy. This is actually the first piece that I worked on, and it is an actual piece of canvas. A lot of people ask me how I created this piece. It is one piece of canvas that I paint, and then I create a pattern of a dress, and then I cut out the pattern and I hand stitch it. And if anyone knows, it's really difficult because stitching it by hand, it's so many different layers of paint and collage that I had pinpricks in my fingers for days. But it was really worth it because I think that it really shows a dress that has the absence of human form in it. And I really wanted to address that resilience of Palestinian identity and ask the question, without a country or a homeland, how does one's cultural identity survive? So the sculpture references a rich Palestinian history and a vibrant culture in that face of adversity, and with the propensity to overcome hardships, rather than that distorted narrative that's continuously being portrayed in the media. And it's my way of preserving that Palestinian practice passed down from mother to daughter, also reinterpreting those traditions in the present day diaspora. And you can see in the next slide, the second one is another piece that I did. It's as well with a little bit of different colors too. And again, I include all of the embroidery that's included in there are actual dresses that my mother has or received when she was first married. And so I'm able to take pictures of her dress and then incorporate that in a collage method. And then also incorporating my father's writing and all of the other design elements like the kafiyeh and then icons as well. So the final piece I wanted to talk to you all about it's called Hope, and it is a little bit different from the first two sculptural pieces because it's actually a painting that hangs on a wall. And I wanted to create this piece to show that strength and resilience that the dress is actually coming out at you. So it is actually three-dimensional. It's a relief piece, and they are two canvases, the one on the bottom, and then I painted a second canvas. And as I did with the sculptured dresses, I created a pattern and cut out the pattern, and then I hand stitched that canvas onto the first canvas. There's a wire mesh inside the dress that it actually creates the feeling of fabric, and then I put a hardening glaze on top so that it feels as though there's someone inside the piece. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think moving forward, also, I just, one of the things Nancy had asked us all to talk about was what we're doing now. And as I said, right now, with the coronavirus, it has definitely been a challenge as an artist myself. I have two little kids, as I said, and so I spend all of my time with them, helping them out with their work, homeschooling them. But I have had opportunity to help out my community. I was making masks, and but moving forward, I'm working really hard on creating these dresses that will hopefully I'll be able to show soon.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nancy. Any questions?
I also want to remind our followers on Facebook that they can also post questions, and we'll be happy to try to answer them. Thank you.
And now we'll move on to Ayya.
Okay. My name is Ayya Abu Ghazaleh. I live and work in Jordan, Amman, Jordan. I obtained my BA degree in visual art, painting and drawing major. So already I started with the academic painting and drawing, but by the time I started to have like a question about what is like my subject, or what would I do since I have like the skill to draw. My father and mother family, they were born in Palestine, so I had always like the question about most of the art that have it, where are we from, about the origin of Minwain, from where we're going, where do we live, all that sort of questions. So absolutely my drawings and painting got affected with that. And what is my case? What is my subject? So I think like back 2 years ago, I started to find, like a route for myself. After my mother passed away, I started to have like more question about my family, and I wanted to like to draw and paint the thing that I love. I would say it like, the thing that I wanted to do is to have like a drawing that related with my memories as a Palestinian, as I always have like all these questions of home, family, food, and stuff like that. As I was a kid, we used to have like an archive. I still have like photos for it, for my family. I have like photos of like this one that I want to show you. I don't know if it's clear. So those are my grandmother, so my grandfather and my father and all of them. So I had like to look more about for their archive. Also for my mother family, they always like have this like archive, but in terms of beautiful, with colorful plants, picnic, all of that. So I have like this kind of feeling of okay, I have these two both combination from two families. One of them, they were like from they had like the real refugee life in tent and all of that, and the second one, they have like better situation. Well, I'd love to move to my painting so I can explain more.
Sure.
Yeah. So this one called tent. I always had like that question of like family and how it might look like. So I had like that imagination from that my father archive about the colors, the texture of things when they, how did they live, how did the texture colors was look like. So this was my interruption to it through this painting. The second one, okay, pomegranate or rumman. I had these memories of my mother and how she used to love the rumman and how to cut it and how to handle it. So as everyone know, rumman pomegranate, it symbolizes love and blessing and all of that stuff. So by the time, or actually my current work is to look more for what does painting plants, sorry, or flowers, what does it mean to my family archives? Does it have too much of colors? My mother family archives, too much colors and plants. And the third one, the third painting, it's called El Khubayzi. Khubayzi, or it's a kind of mellow family flower. So since it's common in our region, and it does mean love and protection, and it's worked like a guard in our garden, since I see it like everywhere. So it's also symbolized for me, and I guess if we dig more in ourselves, we will find that plants and fruits, food maybe, or I don't know, colors, texture, it does mean something, it's worked like a guard or a protector for us in our life. So this is what I'm working on lately, which is what does all of it. So I'm trying like to figure out what does all of things like food, color, texture, as I said, what does it mean for me as a Palestinian, and also as a Palestinian, but way away from Palestine. So that's it, I think.
Thank you so much.
Anybody has any questions?
I'd like to know a little about Ayya's training as an artist, how you became an artist, why you became an artist.
So I was called like an artist, a nana, since I was like, I don't know, 3 years old, or I don't know. So my mother was the one who pushed me to do that, to go and really study what I wanted to. Yeah, but by time, I think every artist would have question about, like the question that I have in my mind. So it will become like by time questions like, what is my subject, what is my goal, what is my, and yeah, we'll figure it out. Yeah, and by time everyone would do.
Thank you so much. And now we'll go on, I guess, to our third artist, to Dima. Yes.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm really honored to be here and to represent my paintings in the Palestinian Museum. My name is Dima Abu Ghazali. I was born in Cairo, Egypt, and I currently reside in Chile, Santiago. My dad was born in Jerusalem, and his parents lived in Jaffa and were forced to move in 1948 to the West Bank. I moved to Palestine to continue my studies after my mother's 27 years of exile. I studied economics at Birzeit University in Palestine, and then I traveled to Dubai to work in the finance industry. I moved to London then, where I got my master's degree in design for interactive media. And then I moved to Jordan, then to Chile, where I currently reside and paint. I currently paint, and I work in oral history with research institute called Al Ruwat for Studies and Research. We collect testimonies from Palestinians living in Chile and other parts of the world as well, who witness Al-Nakba, the 1948 catastrophe, and displacement from Palestine. I'm also a mother of 3 kids. About my work.
But can I interrupt you just for a second?
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about the Palestinians in Chile? We hear a lot that there's a lot of them there, and give us a little bit of information and detail about who the Palestinians in Chile are and what they do, and just some overall information about that. Thank you.
Yeah. Briefly about the Palestinians in Chile, there are about 500,000, more or less, Palestinians that came. They first came in the early 1900s. They were looking for work and for economic opportunities. And then, I mean, they started working here and dragging more of their family members came here. They're mostly from Beit Jala, Beit Lahem, and Beit Sahur, mostly the Christian Palestinians who came here. And some of them were even escaping the Ottoman Empire, the Ottoman regime, back in the early days. And then there were another like wave of Palestinians who came after 1948. Who witnessed 1948 and came after that. And these are fewer Palestinians. Now, the Palestinians now there are like mostly 3rd and 4th generations that have like really love Palestine and work a lot for it. However, they hardly speak Arabic, but they try to maintain their traditions through dancing, through food. And I mean, there's even a Palestinian club here, like a football club as well, that was created before 1948, and it even has the Palestinian map on their T-shirts, the Palestinian map that was before that period, before the occupation of Israel in 1948. Yeah, that's about it.
Oh, thank you. Sorry for interrupting, but I was just curious about that.
Yes, please. And about like an introduction about my work. My work in general, it includes various experimentations of different techniques and themes that I like to work with. I have experimented with abstract art, hyperrealism, surreal, pop art, many kinds of art, and I sometimes like to mix different techniques together to bring about an idea, an expression, or a feeling. The themes are usually expressed through my life experiences. Being a mother of 3 kids and motherhood being part of my life since like 12 years ago, so many of my paintings have this aspect of motherhood. I'm also influenced by the fact that I'm being Palestinian and I'm away from home, and always trying to search home and to find home, as well as my relationship with the land that is being lost and taken. And now maybe I can move on to the paintings you have at the exhibition and talk a bit about them.
Coming up, one moment.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this painting I did in 2016. Its basic technique is pointillismo, which is pointillism. This technique was very famous in the late 1800s, maybe. But it's basically adding different dots of color to make up an image. The message behind that, or I don't know if there's a message really, but it's sort of more of an expression. It's basically something or someone that you carry with you all the time, and that they give you this momentum. Momentum is the name of the painting, or this push or power to carry on and be who you are and be what you want. So this is the first painting. Yeah. And the second one, this is Manna. Manna is hyperrealism. It is basically adapting an image, but it also includes some narration and feelings into the painting. So here I try to show the expression on the face of Manna. Manna is really is a person really that I took her story from the institute that I work with, Al Ruwat, for studies and research. Osmana Asad is a Palestinian refugee. She was born in 1925 in Lifta, Jerusalem. She was forcefully displaced in 1948 to Qaddura refugee camp in Ramallah, where she passed away in 2017. I started painting her, and when I finished painting her, she died like two months before I finished painting her. I painted her out of a picture. I was really sorry for her loss, but yeah. That's it for Osmana. Maybe the next painting I can talk about. The next painting is called The Gate. It's more surreal, it's more like a poem, where the painter paints and the audience have their own personal interpretation of the painting. However, I can also show you my personal interpretation, and I would be happy to receive any of yours if you'd like to have any input in that. This painting is made out of acrylic paint and oil paint. The falling people represent the destruction, the perdition, the torment, and the abuse at the gate. And what is the gate? The gate here, I mean, for me, it could be the segregation wall in Palestine. It could be Qalandia checkpoint. It could be generally the checkpoints or the borders, or even the coronavirus. There are three faces also in the painting. The first face is a blind face, which means it shows how people actually, it represents the people that can't see what is happening. They simply can't see it. The second face is sort of a sad face. It's impotent and it can't do anything about what's happening. The third face knows what is happening and maybe can or cannot do something about it, is totally careless, and maybe can help out, but prefers not to. So yeah, that's the gate. Thank you.
Dima, what are those flying bodies there?
The flying bodies are people that are falling, and they represent the torment, the abuse, the perdition of the people at the gate, the destruction. Yeah.
For all of you, I wonder, okay, it seems that in all your paintings, Dina's, Ayya's, Samar's, that the background almost invades the figure, whether it's the curls on hair that come into it, or in Samar's work, whether it's the patterns that literally serve as background for the figure, or where literally the figure rises from the waves, which serve as background to it. And I just wonder, does that have anything to do with the background, the land so influencing the people of Palestine? Any of you want to answer that?
I don't know. If for me, for example, I always feel that, I mean, in the background or in the back of my head, this is always happening, even if I'm having fun or going out or just living another life, that I'm not physically there in Palestine, but I always feel that it's in my own background. I mean, in my own background as a person. I mean, this would definitely affect me. So this is my personal interpretation. I don't know what Samar would think, or Ayya.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is always, I think, on our minds, and in my paintings specifically, you know, I really do incorporate all of those things into my pieces, and I think also that you know, painting and having those pieces in your paintings also enables you to be able to share it with other people too, and who aren't familiar or are not as well educated about the Palestinian situation. So, but yeah, it's always on my mind.
Yeah.
Ayya, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, yani, for me, I do always have like the connection with plants and flower, yani, in recent work, but also from when I look at my style or brush stroke, I do find it vague and it's not clear. Although all the memories about the story, you know, memories, a story from my father and mother, they're not also clear. So it's always vague for me. I do always want to interrupt it with what I know or what I remember or what I've seen in pictures and what I've heard in stories. So yeah.
Ayya, those very strong strokes of yours. I can't decide whether the figure is actually coming out of the background or you're trying to cover the figure with the background. But it's very meaningful. Now, I also wonder about the coloration of all of your work. As I look at it, Dima, but I don't know whether it has to do with the fact that you're from Chile, but you've got yellows and blues and bright colors in there. And some of Samar's work does, and some of it doesn't, depending on what she's depicting. And then again, Ayya's work seems to have this beautiful blue sky, but under that blue sky is that mud, is the browns, is the blacks to a degree, and they're separated, and there's a very strict separation there. And I wonder if any of you want to comment on this.
I think that basically, yes, maybe where you live and the colors that you see around you might really affect what you paint. I mean, what you see in the painting. I think that might have an influence. I agree. So maybe I tend to put a lot of colors in my painting. Maybe unconsciously you're affected by the colors you see around you. And since I live in Chile, and they love colors and happy colors and strong combination of colors. Maybe I have this influence for me. So I don't know.
Dima, while I have you still, tell us a little bit more about this Manna person. Has any of her relatives ever made contact with you? Have you tried to reach them? I assume she has, descendants and people who would love to see this painting or have it.
That would be interesting. Actually, I haven't. Maybe whenever I go to, I'll try and find a way when I go to Palestine next time, because they live in Ramallah. Her and her relatives.
So do you want to give her name out again and where she was, so that people watching this on Facebook in Ramallah may be able to track down the family and see if we can at least make a photo of this available to them.
Yes, of course. Her name is Uthmana Asad. She was born in 1925 in Jerusalem, and she was forcefully displaced to Ramallah, Qaddura refugee camp. I'm sure that Al Ruwat would have the contacts of her family, the institute that I work with, I will try and I will try to reach out to them so they can help me find her family. I mean, that's a good idea. Yeah.
What emotion are you trying to get through in that painting?
I don't know. I just, when I saw her picture and I tried to like reflect that what I saw, I think I felt that she's like, I don't know, longing for the past. She's like into another world. She's tired, and at the same time she's happy. She's happy to, I don't know, to face the future. I don't know what future she has for her. She's like, I don't know. It's a mixture of feelings in her face. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I found, her face shows a lot of emotion, shows, a certain amount of pain, but yet she has a smile on her face. Her eyes are gazing in the distance. Who knows what she was talking about or thinking about when you took her picture?
She was actually telling her story while the picture was taken. She was narrating her story, and her story was recorded to be documented later by the research.
Could you clarify the name of that organization you worked with and spell it out so we can figure out what it is?
It's Al-Ruwat, which means narrators in English.
Al-Ruwat. How is it spelled in English?
A-L and then R-O-W-A-T.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. For
Nancy,
studies and research.
Sure, thanks. Nancy, I'll turn this back to you.
Thank you. The work is beautiful. I thank you all for being part of the exhibition, for being part of the show, and volunteering to talk about your work as well. I do wonder, in light of what's happening all over the world and being relegated pretty much to your space, how you're carrying on, what you're working on, how that's influencing the work that you're doing, whether even it's hard to get materials, so you're working with what you have, and being that you can't really look outside at what's going on, or have access to the research materials that you usually do, how that's either expanding, limiting, or at least having an influence on your work.
Okay, for me, I think it is. I mean, we've been here in Chile on total, this is our second week of total lockdown, and I also have children, and my 3 children have been homeschooling for the past 3 weeks. So it's also, I mean, it's overwhelming with a lot of studies and things at home, and the materials also for painting are like running out, and it's hard to go get them. So yeah, that's true. In my case.
Samar, how are you doing?
Oh yeah, I kind of addressed it a little bit earlier, but yeah, it's the same thing for me. I'm homeschooling my kids, and so the challenge then becomes spending all of my time with them, which I love. I love spending time with them, and it's a pleasure to homeschool them, and it really gives a renewed appreciation for their teachers. But I contemplate whether or not, just for my own mental state, if I should come up in the evenings, which are the only times that I have to paint now. If I do that, will I be refreshed in the morning? So right now I'm just spending more time with them, and also creating the masks for friends in my community, so that we can, because we're also in lockdown in New Jersey, and I've been to the grocery store once for the past, we've been locked down 3 weeks, and I've only been out once a week, but and the last time it was pretty intense at the grocery store. There's nothing on the shelves, and I think we'll see how it all plays out. And I'm very much looking forward to spring. I'm very much trying to stay optimistic and support my family right now.
Thank you. We have a question from Facebook audience from Nadine Rennam, asking the three artists if there are any artists that you were inspired by. Let's start with Ayya, maybe. Ayya, was there an artist that inspired you in your work?
Well, actually, I don't have a name in my mind.
Okay, we'll pass until maybe you remember it later on.
I'm not sure.
Okay, Dima, who's your favorite artist that inspires you?
I think I have many favorite artists. I don't think it's only one. I mean, from Van Gogh to Dali to Frida to so many names. I mean, so many wonderful painters. I don't think it's one artist. I think it's like a combination. I don't know. For me.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's really, I'm really influenced by the expressionists, Rauschenberg, all of the mixed media elements. And I love O'Keeffe, I love Rothko, yeah, Klein, all of those works, artists.
We should emphasize as well that by artists that influence you doesn't necessarily limit itself to visual artists, that very often musicians or cinematographers will influence artists. So just in opening up the discussion, those can be considered as well.
Yeah, there's also, you talk about music. there is a group in Palestine who's a rap group who I just started listening to, which I find very interesting because there are very few women who are included in the groups. And this woman is amazing, and she sings and or she raps. And it is really quite phenomenal because it's poetry. It's old school 80s style rapping. So that really influences when I listen to that, and painting and really getting aggressive with my pieces. Yeah.
We've got another question from Nadine for Summer. Where can one get the clothing art that you design? Is there a link for that?
Well, yeah, you can actually email me at samar.hdesigns. So my website is www.samardesigns.com, and on there you can email me. And I appreciate Nadine. She's actually a very dear friend of mine from college, and I appreciate her so much asking these questions, because I'd love to be able to share these caftans, as I said before, with so many other people, because they are a piece of art that if you can't afford the paintings, you can afford the dresses, and you can create dialogue around those, the dresses that you wear. And so thank you, Nadine.
Okay. Any other questions from the other artists?
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for Ayya. Ayya, what's it like in Amman now?
Now we were in lockdown like 3 weeks ago. Yeah, I mean, 3 weeks till now, actually. I think it will continue till, I don't know, after Ramadan, they said. So it's a total lockdown. I couldn't actually go to my studio, and I can't actually go to my studio. So I'm at home with my family. I think all in Jordan in the same situation now.
I understand no one is allowed to drive.
Yeah, exactly. Only walking like around the home. That's it.
And you have to walk to the grocery store no matter how far it is, right?
Exactly.
That's quite difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Since I don't have, like, I want to answer the previous question about how would I handle it. Well, I don't have too much canvas in home. So I'm trying like to make more sketches and to get to know my family more. So it's a chance. Although I'm working I work actually as a full-time designer. So it's between like family sketching and working online.
Thank you. Mhm. There are artists worldwide who are running out of canvas and paint and deviating from their normal practice. A number of them have taken huge rolls of paper and started drawing, whether in pencil or crayon or Conte, etc. Have any of you changed your practice as a result of this?
Sorry, for me so far, I still have things to work on, so I was okay, but I think it's a good opportunity as well to try different materials and to experiment with different things at hand to draw with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I as I said too, before we had the coronavirus, I got a new sewing machine, and it actually does a cross stitch in there. So my plan was originally to try to incorporate that cross stitch into the pieces, hand stitching and with the sewing machine. But now I'm using the sewing machine to actually sew things, which is another way of expressing myself as well.
Our Facebook viewers are telling us that the video is stuck on Dima's screen, and they can only see Dima talking. And we're trying to figure out why. I think it might be a Facebook glitch. But I'll change some things around, see if that makes any difference. In the meantime, we had a comment from a Palestinian artist. His name is Fadl Ayub, and he's saying most Palestinian artists are influenced by Ismail Shammout. I see his style in many of the artists. Thank you, Fadl, for your comment.
Mm-hmm.
Nancy, any?
The only other thing is, as well, as we are relegated to homes and don't have access to normal means of artistic production, do any of you find yourselves exploring production in the arts from way back, you know, whether that's hand sewing, embroidery, ways of applying paint that we haven't done for years?
Anyone?
Can you repeat that again? I'm sorry, Nancy, what you said?
I just wonder that with the situation that we're in now and not always able to access modern ways of reproduction, whether that's paint, photography, ways of applying paint, etc., do you find yourselves exploring older means of artistic production? Samar, I know that you're sewing to a degree, but also hand sewing, hand embroidering, looking
Right.
at those ancient, almost, you know, practices.
Yeah, and I think also always in the back of my mind, I remember from in the 80s during the Intifada, how some of the Palestinian artists didn't also have access to materials, so they used nature in order to create their paints. That's an option that I had also thought about always doing, and now I'll probably have to do that once I start running out of paint. But it could be something really interesting to explore. And I think also too, to your point, being home, we have so much through the internet access to online videos on introducing ourselves to also different styles of painting. You know, that's wonderful. One wonderful thing about Dima is that she has such a a plethora of exploration of different styles of work of artists. From she said, you know, I could see Dali influence in her. I could, in her work, I saw pointillism she was talking about, and you know, so I think it'll definitely give us all an opportunity to be able to explore different things that we wouldn't normally have the time or the means to do that. So
Thank you.
Nancy, how about some kind of roundup remarks at the end?
Absolutely, absolutely. First of all, we think that your work is beautiful. I hope that we did it justice in displaying it. I really appreciate the elucidation that you all have about your work, and the courage that you have to keep practicing art, you know, amid the kids running around, amid being stuck in the house, amid the hours and hours it takes to get food into the house, and everything else that's going on. At the same time, I see a real empathy building with Palestinians who, as I said in the intro remarks, have been stuck in a situation very akin to this for years. And I hope that that empathy comes through not only in your work, but in the work of other artists around the world for the Palestinian situation. I thank Artscope for sponsoring this, and they will have it on their feed as well. I thank Faisal for doing a fabulous job getting this online and letting the world know about these wonderful artists that are being exhibited now at the museum, at the Palestine Museum US in Connecticut. And I look forward to the day when you can see all the paintings right in front of you on site. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Nancy. And I'd like to thank our guest artists, as well as the audience we've had on Facebook, as well as all the people on Facebook who will be watching the recorded version of this session during the next few days and few weeks. This is a regular program from the Palestine Museum US. We will be back every Sunday, same time, same channel, like they used to say. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. Our best wishes for your health and safety. Please stay at home and stay out of harm's way. Goodbye.